Hello friends and welcome back. It's the Bear and we are again a little bit late. It's our King Tiger which was massively stalled. However, we're here to complete it. So let's get on with this video. It's all about painting. And check out the build video. There's some interesting tips in there. Anyways, let's start by taking the model into its components. It was built in a certain way in modules. And we are going to be focusing on painting with acrylics, specifically airbrushing acrylics and some of the problems you may encounter, and creating a somewhat interesting scheme. Well, you be the judge of that. Okay, let's start priming the model. We're going to use this product called One Shot from Ammo of Mig. It is also styleneez. It's just the Ammo of Mig branding. We need to dispense this into the airbrush. Application is only via airbrush with this type of primer. One thing to note here, it is much easier to remove the cap totally and pour it and decant it into the airbrush cup, or else that sort of lip thing just clogs up. This stuff is really good, really easy to use. It tends to self-level on application. You can put it on very quickly. You don't need to take too much care, but of course we're airbrushing, so we do take care. We're concentrating, of course, on the shaded areas. We're going to hit the tracks. We're going to hit the photo etch components and all these areas that are going to be in the dark shade. Note that we're not entirely priming the model with this black styleneez or one-shot primer. We're just going into some of these deeper dark areas, specifically the tracks. Remember that we constructed them already assembled, so there's lots of shadows and areas that we need to cover. We don't want any of that grey plastic popping out. Once that's done, we can leave that to rest and dry. The drying time on this primer is very quick. It will be ready within about 1 hour. Now we're using the grey primer, again using the one-shot primer. Why grey? We already have some black down there. Well, I did leave areas of bare plastic, particularly on the top of the hull. And basically the turret, all the upper areas are bare plastic at the moment. We're covering them in grey because we need a primer down in the first instance. We're painting with acrylics. It would just be a lot easier, and I'll explain a bit about that later on. However, if we use the grey primer, we haven't got to fight the battle against the black primer. The grey will be a lot easier to paint over with the camouflage colours that we're going to use as we continue the painting process. So, 2 colours of primer, why not? It works, it's effective. You'll learn more as we go through this video. Okay, the primer's dried up. Now have a look at the surface. Sometimes you're going to have elements of grit on there. It's the primer itself. It is pretty good at self-leveling. However, sometimes the nature of acrylics, of course, they do dry in the air, so you've got these particles on top. To smooth that down, really quick tip. Get some paper, yes, plain paper, and start polishing the surface. Yeah, actually paper is the finest sandpaper that you can use. You're going to see me use this more on aircraft than anything else. But it's really quick, really easy. You can see the residue that comes off the tank. Once the actual surface is smooth, you know you're there. Okay, so we're going to lay down the paint now. We're using this Ammo of Mig paint set, late German camouflage colours used in 44 and 45. I'm a bit speculative of these colours. Some of them look okay. Let's just say they're artistic. They're a lot lighter than reality, and maybe sometimes that's a good thing. Maybe sometimes it's not. Regardless, they do create some really interesting tones, and because we're doing a what if, well, we can be sort of a little bit out there really with our color tones as well. So I'm choosing this the lightest Dunkelgelb that I could find in this set. And that's laid down just in one area. I'm going to break up the model. Let's start off on the lower hull here. What we're going to say about acrylics, we're going to come on to it more and more. We're talking about the AK type acrylics, the Vallejo acrylics, and the Ammo of Mig acrylics in this painting process. With that primer down there, it's easy to lay down this paint. Take notice of how I am airbrushing on the paint. It's fundamental to having success in painting acrylics. They seem to be somewhat of a problem for many modelers. Let's try and solve a lot of these problems for you right now as I explain how the airbrushing process takes place. The schemes that we're going to paint for this what if is going to be basically using masks. And let's give out a shout to my friend Alex from the company SOLIDSCALE. SOLIDSCALE produce masks that are in this niche Panzer 46 territory. So what I'm using here is something called the Zigzag masking template. This fits on the King Tiger perfectly, as you can see, especially along the hull sides. I think this also works on the E75, E100s, whatever, these sort of paper Panzers. Anyways, it works out great. I bought this product, but also he's my friend, and you're going to see it really does create quite an interesting effect. Easy to lay down, just remove it from the backing and place against the model. This is masking frisket, it's not tape, and to some extent it's actually reusable. On these larger portions I was able to reuse them. Okay, the masks are down, now we can paint the second camouflage colour. Rosed Grun. Anyways, it's a really light olive color. Yeah, these are very light tones, but interesting as well. We're doing the lower hull over the paint masks as well. And just look at how I'm painting here. Again, I'm misting on the paint. What you won't gather from this, and this is why I'm going to do live videos in the future, is actually how long this process takes. It's a case of basically misting on an area, leaving that area, going to a different area, laying down a mist, going back, repeating. This is how you paint acrylics. Other major point here is I have added no thinner. This is the neat paint. Remember, the Vallejo Model Airs, the AK Interactives, and the Ammo of Migs are pre-mixed paints ready to airbrush straight from the bottle. Using thinners are detrimental to spraying this paint, something that just seems not to be understood. But we'll cover that in the next little segment as well. Okay, I'm going to do the turret now, and I'm going to paint that all over in this light olive Rosed Grun colour. How do you go wrong spraying acrylics? I can guarantee, and it sounds harsh, that 99.9% of the time it's yourself, it's user error. And I'm just going to demonstrate this right now by pulling back the trigger too far and spraying paint out very thickly. You have immediately created big problems with acrylics. The reason is it needs to be laid down very thin. It's misunderstood. If you sprayed Tamayas, it's a lot more forgiving. If you've used leveling thinner, a lot more forgiving. This is not. You need to apply it in thin layers as demonstrated. As you can see here, this blob here is wet to the touch. When it's wet, it will never be the same. You've actually got a thick layer of paint. You've ruined all the detail, and also the paint job is just, it goes bad from that point. So I'm going to really cover a lot more about this, but it's not impossible, guys. I'm going to teach you about trigger control, all sorts of things. Spraying acrylics is not hard. It's not difficult. Let's just follow the steps. Okay, let's remove the masks and have a look at what this looks like, this weird zigzag scheme. The masking fresquette is extremely crisp. When we sprayed the acrylics, we sprayed at 90 degrees all the time to them. There's no bleed through. In fact, it's so crisp it looks a little bit maybe too good. Well, I'm not boasting or anything, but these masks are really, really easy to use. I do recommend them. Please check out SOLIDSCALE and support Alex as I do. Also, we remove the potty again. Use a bit of potty to pick up the remaining potty is my little tip here for you. And let's continue the scheme. We still need to do the turret, and this is where things get kind of weird. Okay, for the turret, we're using, again, masks. We're using the bubble camo scheme, bubbles, dots, whatever you want to call it. Now, there is a genuine scheme that does use this. However, mine is entirely imaginary. And yeah, it's pretty easy. It only takes seconds, really. Just place on these little bubbles. No, it took ages. Believe me, this took a long, long time. Now, I used all three. You get three sizes of these bubbles or dots. So I placed them in a semi-random manner. Tried to build up some sort of camo scheme. Well, you guys, again, be the judge on this imagination. Well, it's what if, so we can do what we like, I suppose. Okay, with the masks already all in place, let's paint up that turret. So now we go to the light color on the green. So it's a bit of a different effect. The green really should be on top of the light color. However, it still works, as you'll see. Just a case of laying down the color, again, using the same technique. Light coats, build it up. You'll see, again, there'll be no bleed through. These masks are excellent, and none of them blew off or anything like that. It's time to unmask. Point to note, actually, leave that paint on there to dry at least an hour, preferably about 2 or 3, to be honest. Now, to remove all these little dots, I found the best way to do this was with a scalpel blade, X-Acto blade to be precise, and a blunt one, not a mega sharp one. I was going to scratch up that paint. And it was just a case of lifting each one of these masks individually. No, some of them came off in sections, but oh my gosh, they went everywhere. They were in my hair, hands, whatever, but they do come off. And now let's look at this really weird bubble dot camo that we've got here. There's more weirdness. Okay, we're going to mask up the gun barrel just using the silly putty type stuff. And we're going to spray the color grey base. The idea is to depict a primer on the gun barrel, something like that. Anyways, we can do what we like. You know, it's what if. Anyways, paint that and paint the tracks with this grey base. Simple procedure as normal, again using acrylics. So if it's Panzer 46, the colour rot brown, red brown, that primer colour is mandatory. So let's hit 2 sections. So these are meant to represent fabricated components or replacements or whatever. So we chose a hatch and simply paint them in this red brown colour. Okay, let's start laying down the base color on the tracks. We're using this color chipping. It's a very, very dark brown. Whatever you're going to use, it doesn't really matter too much. The idea here is to sort of kill off a lot of that overspray that we've got on these tracks. So we get a good coat, and also we need to get rid of the black as well. The black, it's just too black, if you know what I mean. Anyways, we're going to do some washes. But this is the base color, and also we're going to base coat the tow cables. I must say it was very easy to paint the tracks in this prefabricated manner, and I'm sure it's going to help us in the weathering as well. We paint up also some of the tools, and then also we're going to lay down the base color on the individual track links that I've left separate. So we can just paint all of them in this chipping color. It's just the very first step. Okay, let's get the hairspray out, the Wellex. Gonna hit some areas, the barrel, the infrared equipment, and also some areas, the tow cables as well. So we're going to use some, obviously we're going to use hairspray chipping, or else we won't spray down hairspray. Yeah, anyways, so lay that down. Then we're going to remask the barrel. And yeah, you can see I'm making it up at this stage. We're going for yellow for one portion, the portion towards the mantlet. And then we're also going to paint another colour. We'll paint Dunkelgelb on the muzzle brake as well, so it's becoming a bit of a real mixture here. We'll also paint the IR equipment, also that Dunkelgelb colour as well. So it's going to be, well, yeah, okay, what's the idea here is probably more important. It's a Panzer that's made out of many different bits, and I hope that comes through. But I'm using some of these sort of stereotypical Panzer 46 type things, and you'll see in the next video how all this comes together, I hope. Anyways, a lot of fun as well to do this. You're making things up. Use your imagination, of course. We're not following a scheme, so this is the bare Panzer 46 scheme. And once we remove that masking, we've got the barrel there and its multi-coloured facet. Also, we hit the wheels as well. The road wheels went back, and I used that darker Dunkelgelb on there as well. With all those paint steps completed, let's get this contraption together and see what it looks like. Dry fit everything back together again in their from their respective components. And let's see what we've got here. Yep, kind of interesting. Can we think of a name for this scheme? Guys, put down some in the comments if you can think of something. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you gained something about this. Really, this focused on the acrylic paints and masking. But obviously we're going to go on. This is going to be a further series of videos, so stay tuned for them. Thanks again for your support, and see you on the next one.